Jake Berlin here in the Pocket Movies, and welcome to the Padawan Anthology, our spin-off of our Padawan podcast, our all Star Wars show here on Apocalypse Movies. And I'm here today to talk about none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes, the official word is that Lucasfilm and Disney are moving forward with a Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off film. This story comes from The Hollywood Reporter, one of the most reputable sites out there. This is full go. Obi-Wan Kenobi will be getting his own spin-off movie. No release date has been announced as of yet, but it's expected that it will be taking over the 2020 spot that was first held by Han Solo, and then was supposedly held by the Boba Fett spin-off that was supposed to be directed by Josh Trank. The film is no longer in the works, so Obi-Wan Kenobi will be taking over that spot. 2020, we don't know when, more than likely a May release date. But so this video, we're going to be talking about a little speculation, what it could mean, what kind of stories we could possibly see. First of all, the story also broke that Stephen Daldry, who directed Billy Elliot and The Hours, is in early negotiations to take over the film. He will be, Lucasfilm is looking at him to do some writing duties, also look over the creative control with the Lucasfilm brain trust that is currently in capacity over at Lucasfilm. Which is, that's awesome. That's a great sign. Stephen Daldry, he's very well known in the film industry, indie films, just a great storyteller. So that's a great sign right there. No other word as far as cast or crew or anything has been announced. Yes, that means Ewan McGregor as well. Just a little side note though, he did say last year that he would definitely be open to returning as the Master Jedi in form of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe a little precursor to what happened last week. Maybe he's already signed on, but they're waiting to reveal it. But obviously, everyone around wants Ewan McGregor back in the role. He was by far the best part of the prequels. His character of Obi-Wan, built off what they showed us in the original trilogy with Alec Guinness, and they gave us someone to root for in such a dark, kind of rough set of movies. So obviously I want to see him back. He was my favorite part of the trilogies. There were a couple of them, but he was by far my favorite. I want to see him in a little bit of an older Obi-Wan, that time period before A New Hope, the original Star Wars, right after Revenge of the Sith. Going into our speculation period here, there's so many things that can be told from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope. There's a 20-year time gap, 19 years technically, but there's a 20-year time gap, and I highly doubt that old Ben Kenobi stayed on Tatooine for all those 19, 20 years. I don't believe it. Maybe they thought that in the beginning, but the fact that they're going back and telling a story, it only makes sense for them to feel that time era, whether it's 5 years after, 10 years after, 15 years after. It just makes sense for them to fill that time gap rather than go back before Phantom Menace. Now, speaking of that, I would not be surprised if Lucasfilm decided to do that. A young, much more Padawan-esque Obi-Wan who was learning from Qui-Gon Jinn, set 5-10 years before Phantom Menace. We see young Obi-Wan in the Phantom Menace, and we're like, oh man, this is the beginning of this character. But where did he come from? How was he when he was a young child? How did he get involved with the Jedi? All of that is very interesting. But I think the most interesting time era for this story to be told is in between Episode 3 and Episode 4. And there are a bunch of reasons why. First of all, was he always watching Luke, or did he, go off his own adventures? That's obviously number one. Was he always having his eyes on the future of the Force, on the future of the good side, the future of the rebels, etc.? 2, if they do in fact tell that story, who the hell is going to be the villain? Now, the biggest expectation for this film, if they were going to tell that story, I highly doubt Obi-Wan would be using his Force abilities, because Vader, Palpatine, the Empire, they're hunting down Force users. Just like we see in Rebels, they're going on their 4th season. We saw him use the Inquisitors, we saw him use the Empire, Vader himself. They're hunting down and killing these possible future Jedi Why would they not look for Obi-Wan? Obviously, it'd be smart for Obi-Wan to not use his abilities. That way he doesn't get on the radar. So that leads some very interesting stuff. Does he use his fighting skills? Does he use his smarts? Does he get into cohorts with some other characters? It's very, very interesting going forward whether or not they tell that time era, and if so, whether they have him use his abilities. Now, I'm sure he's going to use his lightsaber here and there. He's a Master Jedi. He's the Master Jedi other than Yoda that we love, we adore, that we see through these movies. But I would not be surprised if it's here and there. Not very much. His lightsaber is just hooked to his hip or, back at his house. We see he has a home on Tatooine inside the Star Wars comics. So it would be very interesting to see Obi-Wan as a normal person acting, whether he's taking down bad guys or going up against the Empire possibly, or some people are wanting to have Vader be the villain. And that's another interesting point going off on a little sidebar here. Yes, Vader in A New Hope, they talk, last time I met, I was yet the Padawan, or now I was yet the learner, now I am the master. Who's to say they hadn't met after Revenge of the Sith? No, but that doesn't imply that they have never met before Revenge of the Sith, right? So it would be kind of cool to see Vader versus Obi-Wan in between that time, because say it's set, 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. There's still 10 years of time to tell where Vader could become the master and not the learner anymore. 10 years down the road, Vader could still be the learner. Obi-Wan is definitely still the master. It would be very interesting. And another reason why Vader would be a great choice to be the villain, Rogue One. Look at the reception he got with the small role he had in that film. He was on screen for maybe a minute and 30 seconds, and he was probably one of the most favorited parts of the film. He diced up rebellions like crazy. He was, menacing. He was the Vader we always expected to see on film. Why not carry that into this movie? Now, he might take over and be, it might be a Vader movie or whatever, because you kind of have to tell his story as well, but it could easily be told, and it would get fans extremely pumped to see this film if it was Obi-Wan versus Vader. Now, the other side of it, spoilers if you have not seen Rebels, I would kind of mute this, and I'll do a little wave or something, but if you have not seen Rebels, or if you have seen Rebels, you know that Darth Maul and Obi-Wan, they met last season near the end, and Obi-Wan ended Maul's life. Everyone has wanted to see the Maul Kenobi fight end on screen. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that'll happen, obviously because Maul met his ending to Obi-Wan on Tatooine in that series, but who's to say they couldn't met before that? It's just like the Vader thing. We don't know what happened. We don't know how much time has gone by. So there's so many possibilities with this film as far as storytelling. The villain, the hero, when it's going to be told. Lastly, the one thing I do want to mention, and this has been a conversation ever since The Force Awakens was released, but it's interesting that Lucasfilm would announce this film now. 2 reasons. 1, it has been expected for a very, very long time that the reason that Lucasfilm has not announced an Obi-Wan movie is because they want to save him for use in the saga films. Now you're probably wondering, how is that going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. How much is he going to actually be used? We know that Luke Skywalker has been on Octo for a very long time, and he has been alone for a very long time. Who's to say that he has not been communicating and hanging out with some Force ghosts in the form of Yoda, in the form of Obi-Wan, maybe his father? Maybe we see an Ewan McGregor, an aged Ewan McGregor, in the form of Obi-Wan this December in The Last Jedi. That's quite possible. Now, the other side of that, the second reason, what if The Last Jedi reveals that Rey has some kind of Kenobi lineage to her? Whether that's Obi-Wan being her father, Obi-Wan being her uncle, Obi-Wan being her grandfather. If that was the case, it would set up the Obi-Wan Kenobi film to tell that specific story. How did Obi-Wan, find a family? Did he have a wife? Did he just randomly knock someone up? It would be a very cool transition into his own spin-off film if it was revealed that Rey was a Kenobi, if she had Kenobi blood in her. That would definitely have to be a part of that movie. And that would get people to the seats. that would get people very, very excited, because now we know that Kenobi himself, the guy who was trusted in the Order, he lived by the Jedi, he shacked up with someone at some point, and he had a family and a life outside of just watching Luke on Tatooine. So, it's very interesting going forward. All we know as far as right now is that Obi-Wan Kenobi will be released in 2020. It will be directed, or supposedly, hopefully directed by Stephen Daldry, the director of Billy Elliot and The Hours. And hopefully, we are all crossing our fingers that Ewan McGregor, the fantastic Scottish Ewan McGregor, will be returning to the role of Master Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we'll be seeing a fantastic adventure film, a little bit of dark elements. Hopefully we see some, lightsaber force fights, whether the villain is force sensitive or not. It leads from some very exciting stuff going forward for the Lucasfilm family and the Star Wars universe. It gets us fans excited. Obviously, you can see how excited I am about this movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi is by far one of the most popular and beloved characters in this universe. Tell his story. He freaking deserves it. Not just only that, but Ewan McGregor deserves to be back in this franchise, whether it's for a movie or 3 movies. We'll never know. We'll see in a few years how long this film will go, how long this franchise will go with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hopefully it's for a movie or 2 or possibly a trilogy. We will see. But that's all I got here. I am Jake Brilliant on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at Qui-Gon Jake, apocalypsemovies.com every day. This YouTube channel, head down to the comments, give us a like, share, subscribe, let us know what you think of this film. Are you excited to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie? Are you bummed that Lucasfilm is kind of shrinking the Star Wars universe by telling stories that we've already heard and characters we already know? Would you want to see something different? If so, who do you want it to be? Do you want to see Ewan McGregor come back? What time era do you want to see? Which characters do you want to see? Let's have a huge conversation in the description. I am always down to talk Star Wars, especially when it becomes Obi-Wan Kenobi. This movie's finally coming. After all these years, this movie is finally coming. Rejoice, Star Wars fans. Again, thank you for joining me. And until next time, may the Force be with you.